Good afternoon, Dogman Cam subscribers. This is your host, D Doss. We had a fantastic show last night, first of its kind. Had Vald out there in the field, DW and myself calling the action for you. It really felt like the NFL of cryptid research. It was a lot of fun. But something that's been mentioned, and it's been mentioned since I've joined this field 6 years ago, is Mindspeak. Now, for all who don't know me, I'm D Doss from Southern Oklahoma, the founder of former BDRP, the Bigfoot Dogman Research Project. I'm now here at Dogman Cams, as well as in the DW family of content creators. I want to touch on the Mindspeak because it's always intrigued me. I've never experienced it myself, though I can say on one occasion in Brown Springs, my primary research area, I did hear a disembodied voice say my name. And that day, I told the gentleman that I was with that were part of my team that it felt like we were being followed out by a ghost or something along that effect. And I said, "Watch, I'm going to catch it when I snap this picture." And sure enough, I snapped a succession of like 3 pictures, and there was a red orb that was changing positions coming down the hill after us. It was very, very weird. But again, that's the same day that I heard a disembodied voice say my name. I've never the multiple occasions I've had to come in close proximity to these creatures, I've never had anything talking to me within my own mind that wasn't me. And I see a lot of people, and it ranges from, simple things like this creature or whatever it is saying their name to them going into long, drawn out explanations of their origins. Folks, I just want to throw my 2 cents in here, take it with a grain of salt or chunk it to the side. But I do believe that people are experiencing this mind speak phenomenon. I honestly do. What a lot of folks are saying it isn't the case. It's I don't believe it's coming from some physical creature, no matter how ancient its origins or how strange its appearance. I don't think these cryptids are out here speaking into people's minds. And that goes with the infrasound too. I think that's misapplied to these creatures. The infrasound that folks are describing that come from top tier predators like lions and tigers, it's not the exact same thing that's happening to people in the woods when they're searching for Sasquatch or Dogman or whatever. When folks get hit with the so-called infrasound in the cryptid field, I've heard it described as their body starts vibrating. It's like their organs are set on top of a motor. So I don't know. I really I think things will be a whole lot clearer for folks who are just entering into the subject or who are just casual fans of the subject if stuff like that's broken down a little bit more. The signs behind it. There's nonverbal communication. Us human beings use it every day without even knowing. When you walk in a room, somebody asks you what's wrong and you haven't said a word, you're giving nonverbal cues that something may be wrong. Maybe it's the way you carry yourself. Uh, Maybe it is your countenance. You know what I mean? Like, but that's not what people are talking about when they're describing this mind speak phenomenon. They are saying that it's nonverbal communication that takes place within the mind. Now, if you believe in psychics and psychic abilities, and I believe there's some credence there, I think people have latent abilities that come from their own spirit. Spirit that God placed within us is a very unique thing. It's a very unique and beautiful thing. And it's an untapped resource of endless possibilities. That being said, I don't believe a creature that would, in my mind, be lower than us has some sort of a higher form of communication. Now, if it does, we really have to start looking at what these things really are. A lot of folks believe they're extraterrestrial in origin or even interdimensional. But whatever the case is, if this mind speak exists as people describe it, then they are a highly advanced being, which I find problems with that because highly advanced beings know how to discard their own scat. They just don't walk as they poop. These things are animals. These cryptids, dogmen, Bigfoot, and all the variations. They're animals of some sort, beasts. Some of them may be interdimensional creatures. As you've seen on Vault's property, there's a lot of, and everywhere where there's an active area, there's a lot of supernatural goings on where there's supposed to be these physical creatures. Now, is it attributed to them? Is it them, or is it the environment that they occupy for whatever reason? Maybe it's all of the above. Suffice it to say, though, it's more than just a handful of people that are experiencing this Mindspeak stuff. And again, I really think it's more of a spiritual happening than something that's tangible. I've also spoken to people who have experienced Mindspeak when they weren't alone, and the feelings that they got while out in these heavily cryptid occupied areas weren't shared by the people they were with, nor was the Mindspeak. So, in this quote unquote research field, which I use that word loosely, because nobody's really doing it, we're trying. Vault's spearheading it. He's really trying to add the scientific element to it and do proper research. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are, and I commend them. That's why I call myself a field investigator. There's too much that goes into doing proper analyzation and research, especially in pseudoscience with unscientifically verified or documented creatures. But when you have this phenomenon, which is supernatural at best, how can you gauge that? How can you measure that scientifically? I think it starts with the individual. A lot of folks who experience these cryptids, whether it's before or after, have poltergeist activity, myself being one of them. A poltergeist, a belligerent ghost, like there's a good ghost somewhere outside of the Holy Ghost. I really wanted to jump on here and address this, just to let people know, no matter what you believe in, you should really be prayed up, because there's other stuff out there than these dogmen encrypted, something that you can put a bullet in. And yes, I believe they can be killed. They can die just like anything else with blood. It bleeds, it procreates, it uses the restroom. That means it's a living, breathing being of some sort. Now, if it's speaking into your mind, take that into account and look at all the other behaviors of this creature and ask yourself, why is this this creature that's been documented since ancient Native Americans, since the Eric the Red and Leif Erikson and the Vikings, why does it have this superior ability to us? Everything else they do is, it can be, what's the word I'm looking for? It can be rationalized. Even the things that seem like they're supernatural, how you walk and you see footprints and all of a sudden they disappear into nowhere. How close were the trees around where these footprints disappeared? Because these things can jump like hell. So Brown Dwarf, he's one of my favorite researchers, old friend, says, I believe I've experienced mind speak when I would see orbs in the woods. See what I mean? And this guy, he's got more feet on the street than coppers on the beat. He's one of the most active researchers I've ever seen. But again, there's that supernatural weird element to it. James Fetke, D, I'm here to learn. All the weird stuff came after I seen a UFO in 1999. Don't know if it's connected, but it seems weird. Brother, let me tell you something. And this is just old D talking. So again, take it with a grain of salt. My opinion's no better than yours, no matter how long I've been in the field. I believe all of it is absolutely connected. Absolutely connected. I don't believe in happenstance, chance, nor luck. I don't think it was some sort of a weird chance or piece of luck that when I started in this field and had my first encounters with these so-called Bigfoot, that poltergeist activity started taking place in my home. Cabinets opening up, pictures rocking on the wall, things, white mist uh, appearing in front of us and then just disappearing, like it's evaporating, but not evaporating, just disappearing. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Growls coming through the walls, shadows walking in and out of rooms. So you've heard other people, especially my Christian brothers and sisters, tell you that there's other stuff out there in the woods. Don't listen to them. Don't listen to me. If you're a Bible believer, open up your Bible. It says in the book of Isaiah, I believe, that when these demons are cast out, they go and they occupy the dry places. The dry meaning remote. Where are these creatures located? They're located in the dry places, and places that are very arduous for folks like us, human beings, to get to. So I really think, and you've heard me say this on the last show, I really think the encounter starts with the person, not so much with what's going on in the woods. Now, is that to say that I don't believe that people just have some sort of chance encounter that they see one time and that's it? Yeah, that happens, and some of the best footages come from that kind of activity. But UFOs, orbs, ghosts, dogmen, Bigfoot, the little people in Oklahoma and other places, all of this stuff occupies the same area. And I don't think that's for no reason. Maybe it's the energy of these areas. Uh, when you get in these um, floodplains by the rivers, there's a lot of metal and stones that actually hold energy within these riverbeds. Does that have something to do with it? I'm not sure. Maybe cameras, the batteries that are in your cameras and your phones, whenever you get close, not all the time, but a lot of the times, whenever you get close to one of these creatures, they completely drain. I remember when I first started, I bought a brand new camera and three backup batteries. And I was with three other acquaintances. I didn't even really know these people all that well, but they were big into the field and had been doing it for years past what I had. And we saw two of them on the trail. One was laying down, one was standing up right off of the trailhead about 30, 35 yards away. Uh, they weren't moving. I pointed the camera. As soon as I looked to the viewfinder, battery died. I was prepared though, right? Brought three batteries. Popped that one out, let it hit the ground, threw another one in. It died before I could take a picture. Guess what happened to the third one? But similar situations have come up when I've been by myself or with even more people. And for whatever reason, the batteries don't die. So do you attribute that to the creature or do you attribute it to the area? You see what I'm saying? There's there's too many moving pieces in this field and around these creatures and in these areas to attribute something like Mindspeak solely to these physical creatures, in my opinion. I really think we should start expanding our horizons and what we're willing to look into and research. But I feel bad for these people who have experienced this Mindspeak because I believe they've been violated. If you hear a voice outside of your own that's talking to you in your head and you're not a schizophrenic, you've not been diagnosed or whatever, and it's only happening in these areas, to me, that's a spiritual attack, straight up. And you know the tree by the fruit it bears. Just listen to, not all, but just listen to what some of these people are saying, these so-called creatures and beings are saying to them. It's very kinky, weird stuff, man. James Fakey, he's saying a lot of interesting stuff. I believe Bigfoot has to be supernatural because it really don't make sense for them to be in the area where we've seen them. Got me thinking they can cloak or maybe use the orbs to go through dimensions. I've heard all that too. I've got pictures and I've seen pictures, tons of them. I think every researcher in this field's probably got them, even if they don't know what they're looking at. But you'll see these orbs, and if you take a real close look at them, you'll see faces within the orbs. It's very strange. And do I believe that? And James, thank you for that. Do I believe that there's something? possibly passing through the ether in these orbs? Yeah, sure, absolutely. I think that there's some ancient Native American stories that kind of coincide with that. Do I believe it's Bigfoot or Dogman? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know. I just I still can't connect the whole physical creature spawning from an intangible spiritual being. And I know it's possible from a spiritual or religious standpoint, whatever you want to call it, and scientifically. Look at all the stuff they're doing at CERN. So it's absolutely scientifically and to me spiritually possible. I've never witnessed anything like that, and I hope not to. Honestly, I don't want to see these. I mean, it's kind of stress inducing to do this for this long and be around those creatures and more than just a handful of occurrences. Really, I mean, Brown, do you get that like anxiety being out there in the field, or even when you're gone from the field? Like this anxiety, it kind of stays with you. So I couldn't imagine witnessing something coming out of a glowing orb or a door like Quantum Leap opening up. That'd be madness. But again, there's too many people, credible witnesses, who are saying just that. And I'll tell you this story, and I won't keep it too long. I'll let you go. This is what really got me to start questioning this field and these creatures and these beings or whatever anybody wants to call them. There were these two girls, and I'll look it up to get you the right information. But there were these two girls that were around 12 years old, and they had a friend who was 12. And they coordinated separately to stab their friend to death. I know a lot of you probably seen this in the news. It was a handful of years ago. Well, luckily, thank God the girl lived. But when they questioned these girls on the whys and the hows, they said that they were threatened by Slender Man. That if they didn't kill their friend to appease this malicious spirit, that this malicious spirit would kill them. Now, anybody who's anybody knows Slender Man was a started off as a scary story, a picture that someone submitted, and based off the strength of that picture, which was really cool looking, good photography, they made an online game. This online game became super popular because it was very creepy, and the Slender Man phenomenon took off. These girls are saying that Slender Man came to them separately and coordinated them together to kill their friend. And the actual interrogation footage is online. And for anybody who's interested, I suggest you take a look at it. It's these girls were sitting there like seasoned war veterans who were prisoners of war. You could see a clock above one's head, and it would just go. An hour would pass, and they would barely move, staring straight ahead. Maybe they opened themselves up to something. I say that to say this. I believe if you haven't had any experiences with this stuff, but you like listen to the shows and the creepy stories and all that, and one day you decide to go out to the woods to find one of these things, you're going to get what you went looking for. Will it be exactly that? Maybe not. I think that there are things out there who can imitate these creatures. Why not? How did this Slender Man, this imaginary, fictional creation, coordinate these girls to kill their friend? How could it have that type of influence? That's a spiritual thing, folks. So just be careful. Yeah, you've heard Dark Water say it a dozen times, and I'll piggyback off that. Don't listen to these stories while you sleep. Don't just leave them playing in the background. And without going and saying any much more than that, just be careful. What you take into your mind has a chance of taking a foothold in your heart. And all this stuff ain't good. Don't get me wrong. I love the subject. I'm not saying it's a bad subject. It's the most important subject anybody can be involved in my opinion. There's monsters in the woods, and the bulk of Americans don't even believe in them. And they're right outside, literally right outside some of their doors. But when you start crossing the line into the spiritual type stuff, these nefarious spiritual beings out there who, given the chance, can have some sort of sway or influence over your subconscious mind to the point where you are acting out consciously things that they're influencing you to do. Uh, that's that's scary stuff. That's serious stuff, and it should be taken seriously. Prayed up and paid up is all I can say. So I jumped out of chat with y'all for a minute. I always like to acknowledge the folks who took their time out to come hang out with me. We have the great Edward Kung Fu Mashburn, Admirathoria, it's 00. Chase Thompson, what's up, Chase? Smudgy Mommy, of course, James Fedke, who's giving us some gold. Super 63, Midi A, Destiny Campbell, my boy Brown Dwarf, Cabin Fever Soap 1, Gordon Samboski, Chica Sean, of course, from Chasing the Truth. And if I missed someone, I'm sincerely sorry. Miss Julie S828. Thank you very much, Miss Julie. Sister Lakea from Lakea Show. Lakea the Librarian. A lot of knowledge in that young lady. And if I miss you, I'm sincerely sorry. I'll get to you through the questions. Jump over here with y'all because y'all are wide open, which I appreciate. Super 63 says, "Hey D, have you ever incorporated a tri-field meter while researching in the woods?" No, I haven't, but I've known some people who have, and they pick up again in these areas where you find cryptids, you find all sorts of ghostly, weird UFO activity. So I'd like to say their experiment with that worked, but did it work for what we were doing? Probably not. I will say this though. There's an unusually high electromagnetic field in these areas. I mean, it's the deep woods, folks. There's no power lines or nothing yet. Through most of them, there's no power lines or anything like that. But if you go out there and measure it, it's an unusually high electromagnetic current that runs through these areas. And I think that may have something to do with these portals that people are reporting seeing. And but what do I know? You know what I mean? I'm an enthusiast, and I read the scientific journals, and I try my best to decipher to you guys from that as best I can. Like with the CERN stuff, it took me years to actually link all the things that they were doing together. You know, nobody really helped me through that. So that's why I really love talking about CERN with you guys, because that's another thing that people aren't paying attention to that could have crazy consequences for all of us. Thank you, Super 63. Graybeard says, "Evil spirit pretending to be Slender Man, just like they pretend to be dead family members. Good book calls them familiar spirits." Absolutely. But then there's the other side of that too, because, there is a balance. When Peter was released, the angel released Peter from prison, right? He went back to where the rest of the apostles were, and one of the handmaids came out and seen him. And she went back upstairs and said, "I just saw Peter." And they were like, "No, you didn't see Peter. You saw his angel," which insinuates your angel, your personal angel or guardian angel, looks like you, according to that part of the Bible, which I always found interesting. There's another gentleman I talked to, a friend of mine actually, who has a twin brother, and he was going through his house and he felt that strange static electric weirdness like you feel in the woods when these creatures are around. And he said he looked through his doorway. He was outside. He looked through his doorway at his home, and he said he saw himself. And I was like, "You did? Was it your twin brother?" He was like, "No, it was me, but it had black eyes, and it was wearing like garb from years ago, from like the '50s or something." Now, was that his angel that he caught a glimpse of, or was it like Graybeard was saying, one of these nefarious kinds? Because even in the midst of angels, angels of God, if I don't know if a lot of you folks read the Bible. I don't care. You know what I mean? That's your personal business. But in the Bible, every time one of our forefathers of the faith, one of the heroes of the Bible, comes in contact with an angel, he immediately falls to his face in fear. And it's only when the angel touches him or announces that, hey, I'm with you, does that fear seem to dissipate. So even though they're the good guys, there's atmosphere of fear that comes around them. And for those with ears to hear, I was actually giving you something there. A lot of you call these things Nephilim. Well, but anyways, I digress. Uh, Marizla? Have you see? He asks, "Have you ever considered using special lenses to capture images that you would not normally be able to see with our limited spectrum we can see?" Bro, I think that's just the camera itself. A camera can see different light spectrums, and that's where you get the ghostly, weird, ethereal stuff that you see in every last field investigator's pictures and videos. There's something called the Santilli telescope. This gentleman Santilli, they try to discredit him, but if I'm not wrong, I got the internet right in front of me. I want to give you guys the correct information, but I was a scientist of some sort, the kind that study the stars and whatnot. Right? He created the Santilli telescope. When he hooked this thing up, he could see what he called um, not extra dimensional, not extraterrestrial, but intra-dimensional creatures, living beings of light. There's videos out there. I'll try to find you one right now, actually. He found these living beings of light right here in our soul, not our solar system, but right here on Earth. They look like snakes and weird birds, and but with this Santilli telescope, like you said, they can see in different spectrums of light. He was able to capture these living beings, and that's how he described them. Now, his peers tried to discredit him, of course, because for whatever reason, science does not want a whole lot to do with the supernatural. Science, by definition, is man's understanding of creation or the world we live in. So it was always strange to me when you hear about the Smithsonian destroying giant bones and things of that nature. That's not really adhering to a scientific principle. That's steering the science field in a certain way. Because I mean, it's common knowledge that there were giants on this. Thank you again, Marissa. There were giants on this planet at one point in time. And it's really weird that they would try to cover that up. You'd have to ask yourself why. Miss Purvis says entities move in and out of our reality. They take the shape of things that scare us or try to trick you with being familiar. Now, I don't think that's just entities though. That's straight up demonic. Anything that's coming with deception, I'm going to chalk up to being a demon. Not everything. I'm not one of these guys that see demons behind every corner, but yeah, I mean, just by nature, that is deception. Like they're making you believe there's something that they're not. They're tricking you. And the scary thing is they're using these weird creatures who are already by themselves crazy enough to have to deal with. They're using them and fictional characters apparently to do it. Santa's dim lady says, I think Bigfoot is a natural creature, whereas Dogman is an experiment gone wrong. And I would agree with that, but the Dogman creature has been around under different names for years. Um, the Lukru, the werewolf, the Irish werewolf dates back like thousands of years. And I like that story because they're the good guys. They are associated with the good guys. They would go and find lost children. They would help the heads of the villages in times of war. But I would see why you would say that because I mean, an upright walking canine type creature is for whatever reason harder to digest than something that's similar to us. Because Bigfoot's similar to us. They're not us. They're beneath us, I believe. We're made in the image of God. They weren't, but they are close to us, much like a gorilla is close to us. You know what I'm saying? But these canine creatures, they're a horse of a different color. Or it could be, and I appreciate that. What's your name? Santa's dim lady. Scotty says, I disagree with Santa. I think they're all a mixture of spiritual and physical. I'm open to all possibilities, though, since I have no idea exactly what they are. I'm right there with you, Scotty. But if you think about it, depending on what you believe, we are a mixture of both spiritual and physical. And I know you've heard the terms spirit is more powerful than flesh. That's why when you walk in a haunted house, nobody has to tell you. Your hair stands up on the back of your neck. You start trembling like a leaf for no reason. You get this unconscionable, this just irrational fear that washes over you. That's because there is something that's similar to you, a spirit in its pure form. It's not burdened by flesh. We are, and again, this is what I believe. The more I get to talking to you, you'll see exactly where my beliefs align. But I believe that we are tripart being, uh, spirit being cased in flesh that has an immortal soul. Spirit is what animates the body. That's why I don't. I mean, the whole cloning thing, that's never going to go well. If anybody's ever kind of tried to keep up with that stuff, look at the cattle that they've tried to clone, like bulls and stuff. They have dead eyes and they're super aggressive. Interesting stuff y'all are giving me, man. I appreciate each and every last one of y'all. I like coming in when the chat's wide open because you don't get just a 15-minute show of me ranting on. Forrest says, D, I've heard trees found ripped out, turned upside down, and stuck back in the ground are warnings to stay out by the Sasquatch. Is that true? I don't know. I've seen that in the area that I researched for 5 years. Um, again, Brown Springs, and they never bothered me. You know what I mean? Maybe I don't know. I don't know. Maybe if it was somebody else, they would. But there are other people that go down there. So with the signs and stuff like that, bro, I'm going to be straight up with you in all things. Unless you can hear from one of the Native American elders in your local area, from one of the tribes, I don't put too much stock into it because what they're doing now, I guarantee you they did 1,000, 2,000 years ago in the exact same areas. And we're just trying our best to interpret. For instance, the triangle shapes, the upside down triangles that they make. For anybody who follows the Bigfoot field, you know what I'm talking about. But for those who don't, the Bigfoot make these weird structures. One of them is the upside down triangle. Now I heard that that was the sign of the alpha male. That when you see one of these, and there's usually only one per area, that means that the alpha male of that tribe or family pod or whatever is near. So one day I'm going into my area and I see this thing just torn asunder. And it was big. It was made out of two trees with a large branch that I couldn't lift, ran across the top of it to make this upside down triangle. And it looked like somebody just came in and yeah, just knocked it out of the way. And it tripped me out because I believe that, that it was a sign of the alpha male. Now, what came of that? Nothing at all. Nothing at all. So I'm pretty sure if that was a structure solely made by the leader and the biggest one out of the entire area, that he would take umbrage with somebody coming in there or something coming in there and tearing it down. But there was no other sign of struggles or torn up patches of wood or anything. As a matter of fact, I think it was a few weeks to a few months later, all that area was cleared out. It looked like somebody hired a cleaning crew and just came in and cleaned all that debris up and brought in new debris with fresh leaves on it, with green leaves on it. That may have been a long, convoluted answer, but the short of it is, I don't think anyone knows enough to say what that stuff is. except for the old schoolers and the Native American traditionalists. Emara, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the coming of the Son of Man. Those days there was a polluting of human DNA, and the same is happening now. Yeah, I mean, possibly. Yeah, probably. That goes into a whole another can of worms, though. Um, but yeah, I agree with you. But and you're talking about Genesis 6. But think about it. After the famous Genesis 6, where it talked about the sons of God finding the daughters of men, and giants were born to them and all that stuff. What happened immediately afterwards? God saw the hearts of men that it was wicked without cease. So the giants was a catalyst, but we were the prompt for him to bring the flood. It was because our hearts. I mean, this is our planet. Not any kind of animal, not a Bigfoot or a dog man. They don't run the show, we do. Because at the very end of the day, we can firebomb each and every last place where they exist. And what are they going to do about it? I mean, I'm not trying to sound macabre, but it is what it is. And doing this for 6 years, the thing I hate the most is people living in fear of these things. Because I live with that fear at one point in time, and it builds an anger in you because it's unnatural. We're not supposed to. Creatures are supposed to have the fear of us, not the other way around. But yeah, I mean, a lot of this DNA manipulation is going on from our side of the fence. CRISPR-Cas9, and I mean, if you want a super athlete child with blonde hair and blue eyes who's going to be 6'4", they can conjure you one up right inside CRISPR-Cas9. How about that? All you got to do is have the money. If you got the money, honey, they got the time. Interdimensional, for lack of a better term, part supernatural, part physical. And I have a really good friend, my brother Dave, down in Texas. Very wise man. Consider him a mentor. I'll bring him on the show one of these days. You guys would like to hear from him. But he was saying the same thing that you are, Scotty, how they are spiritual and physical, and how they can somehow, and this is the part that I don't understand, this is why I don't like talking about it, but somehow they can manifest themselves from that intangible spiritual form to a tangible humanesque form, or a solid physical form. So I mean, I don't know. I think that there's more than likely both. There's some that are straight up spiritual, because like you saw on the show last night, DW pointed out towards the very end. If you didn't watch the show, go back and check it out. It was a lot of fun. And again, it was the first. It was a first. Um anyways, towards the end of that show, he was looking at or he showed you guys pictures of the big boy that's out there. Big Sasquatch creature, huge. It's a living giant. And all around it is this weird spiritual stuff, demonic looking stuff that you can't see with the naked eye, but it shows up in the still pic in that digital picture or that frame from the camera. Now, not all of it looked demonic, but I mean, what is it? And lo and behold, where is it hanging out? Right around this physical creature. So, I mean, what can we? How could you approach that to try to understand it? We got to start out from the ground zero and focus on the physical creatures themselves. Or that's the way I've always done it. But again, me being the spiritual creature that I am, I can't ignore all the stuff that goes on around these beings, these physical Sasquatch and Dogman. As human beings, I believe no matter what you believe, whether you're agnostic or Christian or whatever, that you have inalienable spiritual rights that no other spirit being can violate without your consent. That's why I brought up the thing with these little girls. They somehow gave that spiritual consent to open themselves up to this demonic being that was manipulating them in the form of the Slender Man character. And it's not just kids who do that. We have to be very, very careful. And that's why I said don't listen to a lot of the scary stuff while you sleep. Now I'm just like you folks. I like a good start every now and then. But the stuff that DW and myself and a litany of other people talk about across this platform and others, that stuff is real. I mean, nobody's imagination is good enough. This stuff is real. And again, if you let it take a foothold in your mind, it has a chance to take a place in your heart. And that's your consent. Unless you are strong and sturdy in what you believe. Because again, no matter what you believe, you are made in the image of God and you have inalienable spiritual rights. You don't have to put up with some poltergeist activity in your home. Man is unto his home as God is unto the church. That means you are the spiritual leader. You men out there. And believe me, I've had to have someone give me that speech as well. Because I mean, I was going to everybody and their mama when this poltergeist activity was going on. When all I had to do was turn to the person I saw in the mirror every morning when I brush my teeth. Because it'll flow through us, whether we want to believe that or not. Mike, Michael Z says the best shows to fall asleep to are Dragnet or Car 54. I agree. I don't think that you're going to wake up with any kind of uh, what do they call them, skinwalkers or anything after hearing old Joe Friday. So anything is possible, and just because I'm giving you my perspective doesn't mean, and it's from my 37 years on this planet and from my faith. That doesn't mean that if your opinion doesn't coincide that you're wrong. Just just take heed. And if you don't take anything else away from this show, just know that no matter what you believe, you have spiritual rights. You don't have to just lay down in fear of anything, especially the spiritual stuff. So, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is DDoS for Dogman Cams. I don't know if it actually posted yet or it will after the show, but I have another narration. You guys seem to dig that. So I did another one. I did several actually, but I'm what do you call it? OCD. So if it's not good enough for me, it's not going to be good enough for y'all. But I, I want to put some stuff on this channel. You guys are super active, and I like jumping in the barrel with you. So keep your eye out. So if nobody has anything else, any more questions or comments that they would like to have addressed, I'm going to jump off here. All right, outstanding. Again, thank you all for joining me, and we'll see you tonight.